This is a big week for the UFO phenomenon. There's going to be some major hearings in Congress. And before we get to the witnesses of who will be appearing before the House Oversight Committee, there was an extraordinary press conference, actually, a bipartisan one. Jared Moskowitz, Anna Paulina Luna, and Tim Burchett, Republicans and a Democrat here, revealing some of their frustration with the intelligence community about the lack of disclosure, some of the things they hope to get through with the hearings, and also really displaying how fed up they are with some of the lies and obfuscations that have been made to them by the Pentagon. Here's what they had to say.
Next Wednesday, July 26th at 10 a.m., the House Oversight Committee will hold a hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs. I prefer to call them UFOs. Last year, the House Intelligence Committee held a hearing on UAPs. They brought in some Pentagon bureaucrats who only had two answers to the questions they were asked. I don't know, or that's classified. This hearing is going to be different. We're going to have witnesses who can speak frankly to the public about their experiences. We've had a heck of a lot of pushback about this hearing. We've had members of Congress who fought us. We've had members of the intelligence community and also the Pentagon. Even NASA backed out on us. There are a lot of people who don't want this to come to light. I've even tried to introduce an amendment to the Federal Aviation Administration Reauthorization Bill, and all that would do would require the Federal Aviation Administration to report UAP sightings by commercial pilots to Congress. I was told the intelligence community shut it down. This is ridiculous, folks. They do exist or they don't exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but they block every opportunity for us to get a hold of the information to prove that they do exist.
So you can see there, he's pretty pissed off. He actually gave an interview to local TV in Knoxville where he expounded on some of these views and on some even more of the obfuscation that's happening behind the scenes. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Just to be clear, are you saying what you have seen, do you think it's something, international technology we haven't seen, or do you believe that you have seen videos of extraterrestrial life forms in UFOs?
I'm 100% convinced that is not any of our allies or any of our enemies' aircraft, that it did not come from this world. Either it's from our skunk works, which means it was something they recovered and they reverse engineered, or it is something extraterrestrial.
There you go, Krystal. Now look,
You got a true
let's be
believer
fair.
there.
Tim Burchett is a longtime UFO guy. He knows, he's very well informed. He knows the whole history of Roswell. So, if anybody, I'm actually glad to see him on the committee. He's one of the first people to actually push it. But, look, Anna Paulina, these people, I'm presuming, she's a former TPSA activist. I mean, they are getting into this, I think, because they genuinely do find cover-ups. She's talked also about problems that they've had in Florida trying to have some disclosure requirements. Matt Gaetz is now talking about it as well. Like I said, Jared Moskowitz was there behind Tim Burchett, clearly also pushing. We've talked about Andre Carson, who, by the way, I mistakenly said he's from New York. He's from Indiana. Andre Carson has also talked a little bit about pushing for disclosure. So, in all of these cases, we're seeing Congress get fed up with the official narrative that is being told. Not all of them are believers, like Tim Burchett, but many of them actually are willing to hear more. And that's why I think this hearing is so important. So let's put these witness lists up there on the screen. I actually think this is the perfect witness list. We have here Ryan Graves, who's been on the show, the executive director for Americans for Safe Aerospace. He's a former U.S. Navy pilot who has reported multiple sightings and been pushing a lot of disclosure within the community. And then a man who I owe a great debt to, even though I've never even met him, Commander David Fravor. I did not really care about UFOs until I listened to Commander David Fravor and his testimony about the Tic Tac incident, his personal encounter with the Tic Tac object, and also with all of the corresponding evidence that he brings to the table, the corresponding, his co-pilot, the people who served with him in the squadron, the level of reporting. He was the first person I ever saw of a genuinely serious U.S. Navy background. I mean, this is a man who, and he often said this too, he's like, look, I didn't go into this looking for UFOs. He's like, I was training for war in the Gulf.
Wow.
When we were off the coast in the middle of this. And one of the reasons why I didn't think even more about it or take it as seriously at the time was we were at war. I was the commander of a squadron heading into an active war zone. So I am a person, you know, with Ryan Graves and with Commander Fravor. These people were put in charge of other pilots. They were put in charge of hundreds of millions of dollars of aircraft equipment. Presumably, like if these people are totally, completely nuts, somebody would have flagged it or found it, or they would have acted out in some other way. They are completely normal. They're completely like studious and professional, and you know, in every aspect of their lives. Except on this one, we want to say that what they're saying is completely insane. And then finally is Dave Grush, who of course is the former national NRO officer, representative on the UAP task force inside of the Pentagon, otherwise known as the whistleblower, who has made extraordinary allegations from that there have been murders that have been committed to cover up the UFO phenomenon. I mean, I have to laugh when I hear that, but I mean, he says this with a straight face. They say that his allegations are serious, they're credible, that they bear investigation. Right now, so far, we've only gotten that Newsmax interview with him. He's been very quiet, you know, otherwise in terms of the people that he's spoken to. And here, he's going to be testifying under oath.
Right.
That's serious business. So look, to the Pentagon and to all of them, if he's a liar, he should be asked about all of this under oath. If he's a liar, throw him in jail then. Throw him in jail. But if you don't, that tells us a lot too about what he's going to testify to.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Do you think, I think part of what is happening here with an increasing number of members of Congress becoming increasingly strident in their demands and, you know, really pushing for transparency, you know, it's partly genuine interest. It's partly that they feel stonewalled, and it's, you know, it's frustrating to them and to like their ego, because they feel like, okay, you have to answer to us. And so the fact that we're not getting straight answers here, it really, you know, rubs them the wrong way. So I think that's part of why you're getting this increasing push. The other thing I'm curious about, Saagar, is we've seen, for example, with the allegations from Dave Grush, we saw that there was a real reluctance, there was a total blackout in the mainstream press of being willing to actually report out those allegations. And so some, you know, people who had done reporting for the New York Times previously on UFOs, they actually had to take it to a different outlet because the Times turned them down, Politico turned them down, Washington Post turned them down. And these were not like weird, wacko fringe reporters. These are mainstream journalists who reported this out and, you know, actually were able to bring these allegations forward, but not in any of the mainstream papers. So do you think that having this kind of congressional testimony and inquiry kind of forces the hand of the mainstream press to cover it at all?
I would hope so. I don't know. I have very little faith in these institutions. I mean, we're talking about freaking Leslie Kean here. She literally wrote the 2017 New York Times article with Ralph Rubenthal that blew open everything on this topic and revealed it to the world in terms of these videos. I mean, if the Times is willing to ignore somebody that they previously trusted and, you know, worked on their behalf for decades, well, I think they can ignore a lot. At the same time, a man under oath making these claims, you cannot ignore it, in my opinion. And at the very least, here's the good news. Even if they do, enough people in Congress are fed up about what's going on here that they are still demanding questions. So we've got, you know, this hearing, we've got the Schumer amendment that is happening inside the U.S. Senate on the topic. You put those two things together and you force legal disclosure, or at least alleged legal disclosure, in the NDAA combined with this, and maybe we'll eventually get to the truth. But, you know, you asked me this last time, do you think this will actually work? I honestly don't know. Let's remember, you know, JFK, we still don't know who killed JFK. It's been over 60 years since that happened. Also, it's not like being legally required to provide oversight has ever stopped the FBI, the CIA, or the Pentagon from breaking the law before. You know, usually it takes like, it doesn't take a Grush level guy. It takes somebody with direct knowledge with the actual like files. Remember with Grush, he says that he's seen evidence of this through highly classified programs and all that. He hasn't actually seen craft or any of these other things with his own eyes. So, you know, who are those people? Where are they? Do they exist? Let's get them before Congress. They don't have to be public. They can even be private. Whatever, we'll take it. As long as somebody tells us a little bit about it afterwards. But Congress...
What has Grush said about why he decided to come forward?
He says that they were lying. But he said that Sean Kirkpatrick, the director of the program, the Arrow program, basically lied before Congress, and he felt compelled to come forward and say something, which is the best reason to be a whistleblower.
Yeah, so you could imagine a situation where, you know, people who have actually seen craft or have additional evidence, if such a thing exists, where they feel so outraged by the lies that they see told or by the stonewalling that potentially that causes more whistleblowers to come forward.
Yes.
Would be the ideal scenario.
That would be the ideal scenario. Whether it will happen, whether those people exist, whether they're alive, like, I mean, who knows? You know, these things are all compartmentalized in such a way. I think the most extraordinary allegation from Leslie Kean actually is that billions, tens of billions of dollars have been spent on crash retrieval programs and are part of a black budget and account for some accounting problems that the Pentagon has.
That's why they can't pass the audit.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to be, you know, 80% of the budget or whatever,
Right.
but it may be more than you actually know. So as I always say, Transformers is real.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.